I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Good morning, everyone. It's January 10th, 2021. I'm Eric. How's everyone doing this morning? I hope you're well. Have you ever noticed that government officials denounce violence when peasants are the ones inflicting it back at the state, but have absolutely no problem when it's one of their own people inflicting it on the peasants? I bring this up because here we are with Kaylee McEnany. She says she condemns the violence that happened during the so-called siege of the Capitol building. Check it out.
I am here to deliver this message on behalf of the entire White House. Let me be clear. The violence we saw yesterday at our nation's Capitol was appalling, reprehensible, and antithetical to the American way. We condemn it, the President and this administration, in the strongest possible terms. It is unacceptable, and those that broke the law should be prosecuted.
You just heard what she said. Antithetical to the American way. Yet, every single day in this so-called free country, we have egregious actions of violence taken by agents of the state. America was built on violence. The violence of taxation. The violence of so-called law and order. Whose order? Certainly not our order. Their order. The violence of their law and order. And there's people out there that truly believe that these assholes make laws on their behalf. But if you were to look at some of the language in these laws, you would see that it's just the opposite. These laws are made against you, not for you.
To the fullest extent of the law. I stood here at this podium.
She says these people should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Why is it Hillary Clinton isn't in prison right now? Why? They know she's committed all manner of crimes. Same with her husband. And probably their daughter as well. Why are none of these people who commit crimes in prison? It's really simple. The American citizen, the peasants, we have no equal protection under the law. The only people who are protected by any of these laws are the ones making it. Now, she's fine as fuck, but she's a liar. They're all liars. Anyone that gets up on that TV for representing the government is a fucking liar. And she's no exception. You know, one of the commandments, one of the 10 commandments is to not bear false witness. And these people, including her, including Trump, including Pelosi, the governors, the senators, the congressmen, and the lobbyists, they break that commandment constantly, bearing false witness. And she wears that cross around her neck. You see why I do not call myself a Christian.
The day after a historic church burned amid violent riots, and I said this: the First Amendment guarantees the right of the people to peaceably assemble. What we saw last night in Washington and across the country was not that. End quote. Make no mistake, what we saw yesterday afternoon in the halls of our Capitol likewise was not that. We grieve for the loss of life and those injured, and we hold them in our prayers and close to our hearts at this time. We thank our...
Now you gotta ask yourself, is the cop that shot that veteran at point blank range going to be held accountable for his actions? I'm guessing probably not. After all, they are the odds are 1 in 1,000 that they'll see any kind of prosecution for their murder. These people get up on TV, and then same with mainstream media pundits, you know, like Don Lemon, that Chris Cuomo faggot, all of them. They'll shake their finger at you and condemn your actions, but they celebrate the actions of the local law enforcement when they commit cold-blooded murder, shooting people in the back. Rarely do they hold these departments to task. And when they do, it's just, well, it's just a show. They don't really feel that way. Why is it okay for the state to inflict all manner of violence upon the peasant citizens of this country, and not the citizens inflicting violence upon the state? Why is that okay? Why is any violence okay? Because it's the state doing it. That's where the idea of the monopoly on violence comes from, because they are allowed to inflict all manner of violence on you. But when you inflict violence on somebody as a method of self-defense, the fucking book is thrown at you. When you brandish a weapon and trying to avoid conflict, the fucking book is thrown at you. That's why I tell you, if you get into a conflict with somebody and things happen, I encourage you, do not call 911, because even if you're right, even if you were defending yourself, they will throw the fucking book at you more times than not. Many more times than not. We can see over here at the Free Thought Project at any given time that and police are committing crimes against the people, atrocities, across this nation. What's ever done about it? And when they actually do something about it, it's a token gesture. What is it going to take for people to turn their back on this system? I mean, they have straight up, blatantly stole the election. Blatantly. Judges refused to hear any of the gathered evidence. And now we see that the Democrats are going to use this Capitol incident to suppress political dissidents. And President-elect Joe Biden characterized the mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday as domestic terrorists. Funny, they didn't feel that way when Antifa and Black Lives Matter was burning down innocent people's businesses. They didn't come out and condemn those actions. In fact, they got on their fucking knees. In fact, they praised the violence. But when individuals and groups began fighting back, well, goddamn it, we're fucking domestic terrorists. And I told you many, many times that if you defend yourself against any state agent, they will condemn you as being a terrorist, a criminal who deserves the death penalty or your life to be taken in prison or to be killed outright by the enforcement branch of the government, i.e., the police force, the standing army that right-wingers are constantly whining about, but don't realize is right in front of them. They worship this standing army as heroes. Heroes to what? To what? The state? What exactly is it that they sacrifice for the public for them to be heroes? The same with the nurses and the doctors. And hey, let's not forget about all them stupid signs that says, what? Heroes work here. You're getting paid to do a function. You're sacrificing nothing. Nothing. So how is it these people are hailed as being heroes? Okay, let me start over with this quote from this dickhead. President-elect Joe Biden characterized the mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday as domestic terrorists, referring to the violence as one of the darkest days in the history of our nation. Even though it wasn't those storming the Capitol that committed any acts of murder. It was a state employee, a cop, who committed the act of murder. Mr. Biden has said he plans to make a priority of passing a law against domestic terrorism. And he has been urged to create a White House post, and I mentioned this yesterday, overseeing the fight against ideology. My tongue ain't gonna do it. It's just not. Ideology. Well, we'll just say political ideology-inspired violent extremists, and increasing funding to combat them, as if our nation has any kind of money or wealth. Federal law defines domestic terrorism as dangerous and illegal acts intended to coerce a population or influence the government. Let me stop right there. Terrorism as dangerous and illegal acts intended to coerce a population. Isn't that what the state does? Isn't that what law enforcement does? And everything is, of course, white supremacy. Let's look at these three. The actual bill Schiff introduced is quite generic and covers a wide range of actions as well as attempts to take such actions or conspiring to do them. Whenever in a circumstance described in subsection B and with the intent to intimidate the state or coerce the state, a civilian population, influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. A. Knowingly kills, kidnaps, maims, commits an assault resulting in serious bodily injury, or assaults with a dangerous weapon any person within the United States. This happens routinely in the name of law and order. Kind of like the witches back in the day, Salem witch trials among others, were burned alive in the name of Christianity. B. Creates a substantial risk of serious bodily injury to any other person by knowingly destroying or damaging any structure, conveyance, or other real or personal property within the United States, or by attempting or conspiring to destroy or damage any structure, conveyance, or other real or personal property within the United States. It looks like they just simply repeated what they said above. Any prosecutor will be able to use this wording of the law to indict somebody who has been talking about bashing a road sign for domestic terrorism. I mean, even the ACLU is against it. So, a lot of political violence from the state is going to be dished out upon people who had the nerve to support Donald Trump as a political candidate. I don't support either one. I don't give a shit who the president is. Nothing ever changes for the better. Can you name me one fucking instance? One. In the last decade where a politician has changed, obvious change, by the way, and created laws to the advantage of the American people. One instance, one executive order. And they're going to be cracking down on people like myself. And by the way, if you're Antifa, again, or Black Lives Matter, it is perfectly acceptable for you to make threats against people with the opposite or competing ideology. It's okay to target white people. And I'm not even about that racism shit. I don't give a shit what color you are. Don't. I don't give a shit if you're Chinese or black or Mexican or whatever you happen to be. Because frankly, I don't like people. I don't need your skin color as a reason to dislike you. Most of the time, if you spend more than a few minutes with somebody, you end up having a reason to dislike that person. Or not. More proof Democrats all want us dead. Can you imagine the outrage if a President Trump supporter said this? And again, this just goes to show the double standards that are applied when it comes to violence, self-defense, or political speech. Subtitle: Prepare to defend your families and loved ones from leftist insanity, America. Keep buying lots of guns and ammo, America. Democrats and the MSM are calling for a cleansing. A cleansing. This comes from Rick Klein on Twitter. Trump will be an ex-president in 13 days. The fact that getting rid of Trump is the easy part. Cleansing the movement he commands is going to be something else. The signs of massive trouble ahead are now everywhere. Hand warmers here, because it's pretty fucking cold in here. With the 2020 election now having proven to nearly 100 million Americans that Democrats can get away with stealing U.S. elections and nothing will be done about their crimes upon America, with no judges even hearing cases of voting fraud carried out by the Democrats. Many of those millions of Americans are likely done with this system of lies built up by Democrats for the rest of their lives. Now let me stop right there. It's so easy for the right-wingers to blame the Democrats, but keep in mind that a lot of these bills and laws are voted on by Republicans too. So it's not just Democrats, it's the entire system. All of it. All of it. It's filled with liars, thieves, pedophiles, murderers, serial killers, you name it. That is your government. And more than likely, all governments. I mean, if you want to be a serious criminal, just go get a job with the government. You'll get away with whatever you're doing. For the most part. With this election also confirming the warnings of things to come long ago given by Joseph Stalin, who allegedly said those who vote decide nothing. And this is true. And this is why it's a pointless exercise. You've seen this reality. The reality that voting makes zero difference. Because if they don't want one person in or another, they will just lie about the votes. They won't show any proof. Do they ever show proof? No. Did they show proof of the weapons of mass destruction before invading Iraq and murdering all them innocent women and children? No. Not a fucking shred of proof. But, let's continue to support people who routinely lie to you about all manner of things, and just do what we're told. And again, they say anyone who still believes even a word coming out of the mouths of Democrats or mainstream media in 2021, when they've called half of America Russian trolls for the past 4 years, deserves the lies they'll continue to get from them. These people act as if the right wing of this government had absolutely nothing to do with it. And that's just a fucking lie. It's lying by omission. ABC's political director Rick Klein recently penned a piece demanding that America be cleansed of President Trump's ideology, as the Washington Examiner reported in a recent story titled, ABC Demands Cleansing Trump Movement from America. What happens when that cleansing involves Trump supporters being re-educated And of course, we've been talking about these FEMA camps for quite some time now. And I'm beginning to wonder, are they ever going to get used? I mean, they did go through the trouble of building them, supplying them, and staffing them. Or are they already being used? Is this where some of the people who disappear from society are going? Maybe. Simply put, this would be the final straw for most Americans, who would then have absolute proof that tyranny had taken over America. How can this person, Stanford, even say this? We've had absolute proof for decades. Decades. And still, people run and vote. Still, people support law enforcement. Still, people support political candidates that whisper sweet little nothings in their ears. And, Republicans are terrorists. This, I think, comes from Facebook post. There can only be one, or there can be only one punishment that fits the crime. Every Republican must die. It's not murder to kill a Republican. It's a patriotic duty. You guys started a civil war. We will be fighting a war of genocide. So these people, these leftists, really, really want a war. And it is their intention to commit a genocide during this war. How does this guy still have a job when so many other people have been fired from their jobs for not supporting BLM or Antifa? So, keep on the lookout. Because they may be making some fucked up moves soon, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what that is. But I will say that I think they have made their intent clear. Are you ready? Are you ready for a civil war? Again, adopting guerrilla warfare tactics is the way forward for most of us. Anyway, I thought I would discuss this with you, because we need a real revolution. We need real men and women to stand up and volunteer to fight against the tyranny that's been taking place for decades. If you're such a person reach out to me. Till next time, kill the state, live free.